Have you ever sat across from someone you've known for years? Someone you've shared a bed with, raised children with, or built a life with, and suddenly felt like you were looking at a complete stranger? It's a chilling feeling. You look into their eyes, and for the first time, you realize there's a door in their mind that is locked. You don't have the key. We like to think of cheating as something that happens in movies. Dramatic explosion. Okay, a glass of wine thrown in a face, a suitcase packed in the middle of the night. But in real life, the psychology of betrayal is much quieter. It's a slow, cold shadow that creeps into a home. It doesn't start with a hotel room or a secret phone. It starts with a choice to be silent. It starts when one person decides that their own secret thrill is more important than the heart of the person sitting right next to them. But why? That is the question that keeps so many of us up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling. Why would someone risk everything? Why would they risk the house, the reputation, and the person who stayed by their side through the worst flu and the hardest financial years? Is it because they stopped loving you? Surprisingly, the answer is often no. Psychology tells us that many people who cheat still claim to love their partners deeply. And that is the part that hurts the most. It's the part that makes us feel like we're losing our minds. You see, cheating isn't usually about the partner who was left behind. It's about a hunger inside the person who leaves. It's about a hole in their own soul that they are trying to fill with the high of being someone new to someone else. They aren't looking for a better person. They are looking for a different version of themselves. Today, we aren't just going to talk about the bad guys and good guys. We're going to look deeper. We're going to talk about the broken wiring in the human brain that makes a person trade a lifetime of trust for a few hours of excitement. We're going to talk about the lies they tell themselves just so they can look in the mirror every morning. And most importantly, we are going to talk about the suffering, the deep, invisible marks left on the soul of the person who was betrayed. Welcome to the Psyche Side. Let's try to understand the things that feel impossible to forgive. To understand the cheater, we have to look past the action and look at the why. Because not every betrayal comes from the same dark place. In psychology, we see patterns, masks, that people wear to hide their own emptiness. The first mask is the validation seeker. This is perhaps the most common, and in some ways, the most pathetic. This person doesn't necessarily have a bad marriage or a boring partner. What they have is a leaky bucket where their self-esteem should be. They need constant, fresh attention to feel alive. To them, a partner of 10 years is old news. Their partner knows their flaws, their morning breath, and their failures. But a stranger sees them as a hero, a mystery, a catch. The validation seeker isn't in love with the person they are cheating with. They are in love with the way that person looks at them. They are addicted to the newness because it hides the person they actually are. Then there is the conflict avoider. This is the nice guy or nice girl who everyone thinks is perfect. They never argue. They never raise their voice. But underneath that calm surface, a mountain of resentment is building. They are unhappy, but they are too afraid of the mesensis of a breakup. They don't want to be the villain who ends the relationship, so they cheat. Subconsciously, they are burning the house down because they don't have the courage to walk out the front door. They leave clues, they get caught. And in a twisted way, they feel relieved when they do, because finally, the relationship is over without them having to be the one to start the conversation. But perhaps the most confusing is the self-saboteur. And this is the person who finally has everything they ever wanted: a stable home, a loving partner, a quiet life, and it terrifies them. For people who grew up in chaos or with inconsistent love, stability feels like a trap. It feels boring. Or worse, it feels like they are waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think if I'm going to get hurt eventually, I might as well be the one to destroy it first. They cheat to regain a sense of control. They would rather be alone by choice than be abandoned by surprise. Lastly, we have the entitled explorer. This is the person who feels that the rules of society simply don't apply to them. They love their partner, yes, but they feel they deserve more. They view life like a buffet. They don't want to choose just one dish. They aren't running from pain. They're running toward a fantasy. They believe they can have their cake and eat it too, and they often feel a strange sense of intellectual superiority because they know how to keep a secret. Each of these people is trying to solve an internal problem with an external person. But as we know, you can't fix a broken heart by breaking someone else's. The question we often ask after a betrayal is, how could you look me in the eye? How can someone come home from a secret meeting, sit down for dinner, ask about your day, and tuck the kids into bed without their voice shaking? To understand this, we have to look at the secret room of the human mind. The first tool a cheater uses is something psychologists call compartmentalization. Think of the brain like a giant house with many different rooms. Most of us keep the doors open. Our values in one room affect how we behave in another. But a cheater learns how to build soundproof walls. They put their marriage, their kids, and their real life in one room. They put their affair, their secrets, and their fantasy life in another. When they are in the affair room, the marriage room simply doesn't exist to them. This is why they don't feel guilty in the moment. They aren't thinking about you because they have literally blocked the hallway to your room. The second mechanism is cognitive dissonance. This is a fancy way of saying that the human brain hates being the villain in its own story. Most cheaters consider themselves good people. So, when a good person does a bad thing, the brain experiences a painful tension. To stop that pain, they have to change the narrative. They start to rewrite the history of your relationship. They tell themselves, "We haven't been happy for years." Or "She's always nagging me anyway," or "He doesn't truly appreciate me." They find flaws in you to justify their sins. They turn you into the bad guy so that they can feel like the victim who finally found a little bit of happiness elsewhere. It's a survival tactic for their ego. And then there is the dopamine loop. We have to be honest. Secrets are an aphrodisiac. The human brain is wired to love the forbidden. The risk of getting caught releases adrenaline and dopamine, the same chemicals we feel when we're on a roller coaster or winning at a casino. For some, the affair isn't even about the other person. It's about the high of the secret. They become like addicts, chasing that rush of a hidden text message or a midnight meeting. But here's the tragedy of the secret room. Once you build walls in your mind to keep a secret, you also build walls that keep love out. By compartmentalizing their life, the cheater becomes a fragmented person. They're never fully present anywhere. They're half a person with you and half a person with their lover. They think they are winning by having both, but in reality, they are losing the ability to be truly known by anyone. They are living in a house of mirrors, and eventually, the mirrors always shatter. We often talk about the broken heart, but that phrase is too small for what actually happens when someone is betrayed. What we are really talking about is betrayal trauma. When the person you trust most in the world lies to you, it doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your brain's map of reality. Think about it. Up until the moment you found out, you believed your life looked a certain way. You had memories of anniversaries, quiet mornings, and shared secrets. But once the truth comes out, every one of those memories is retroactively poisoned. You start to ask, was he thinking of her during that dinner? Was she texting him while I was holding her hand? This is why the suffering is so deep. The victim doesn't just lose their partner, they lose their past. They lose the ground they are standing on. Psychologically, this often leads to a state of hypervigilance. The person who was supposed to be your safe harbor became the source of your greatest pain. Your brain decides it can no longer trust anyone, not even your own eyes. You become a detective in your own life. You check phones, you track locations, you look for hidden meanings in every sentence. It is an exhausting, soul-crushing way to live. Your nervous system is stuck in fight-or-flight mode, waiting for the next blow to fall. But there is another side to the suffering that we rarely talk about, and that is the suffering of the cheater themselves. Now, it's hard to feel sympathy for someone who caused so much pain. But if we look at the psyche side, we see a different kind of tragedy. A cheater lives in a state of constant low-level anxiety. To maintain a lie, you have to have a perfect memory. You have to remember which lie you told to whom. You have to keep your story straight. You are effectively living a double life, and in doing so, you lose your integrity, the state of being whole. When you are no longer a whole person, you start to feel a profound sense of isolation. You can be surrounded by people who love you, but you feel like a ghost because they don't love youth, they love the mask you are wearing. There is a deep, cold loneliness in being unknowable. And then there are the children. Even if they never know about the affair, they feel the vibration of the lie. They feel the tension in the kitchen. They see the way their parents look past each other instead of at each other. They learn without words that love is something fragile, something that can be hidden, and something that isn't quite safe. The suffering of a single secret can echo through a family for generations. Healing from this isn't about getting over it. It's about rebuilding a world that has been shattered into a million pieces. It's a slow process of learning how to trust your own shadow again. We often ask if a relationship can survive a betrayal, but perhaps that's the wrong question. The truth is, the relationship you had before is gone. It died the moment the secret was born. The real question is, can a new relationship be built from the ashes of the old one? Psychology tells us that healing is possible, but it is not cheap. It requires a level of honesty that most people find terrifying. For the one who cheated, it means tearing down every wall they built in that secret room. It means standing naked in the truth, without excuses, without blaming the partner, and without rewriting history. It means looking at the pain they caused and sitting with it day after day until the other person feels seen. For the one who was betrayed, healing means something different. It means eventually deciding that you will not let someone else's choices define your worth. It means realizing that while they broke the trust, you don't have to stay broken. There is a beautiful Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they're highlighted. The vessel becomes stronger and more beautiful because it was once shattered. But sometimes, the most psychological growth comes from walking away. Sometimes, the psyche side of healing is recognizing that you deserve a love that doesn't require you to be a detective. You deserve a life where the person sitting across from you is exactly who they claim to be. As we close today's journey, remember this. People who cheat are often trying to escape themselves. They are running away from their own boredom, their own insecurities, or their own past. But you cannot run away from your soul. Eventually the sun comes up, the secret room is exposed, and we are all left with the truth of who we are. If you are currently in the middle of this storm weather, you are the one who strayed or the one left behind. Know that the pain is a signal. It's a signal that things cannot stay the same. It is an invitation to look deeper, to speak louder, and to finally live a life that is whole. Because in the end, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with the truth. Thank you for spending this time with me on the Psyche Side. If this deep dive helped you understand your own story a little better, please consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments. We are all just trying to understand the human heart, one layer at a time. Till next time.